All right, we're live. Oh, there's a lot to talk about. Big story at the moment in sport is the proposed sale of Wembley to Sahid Khan, and I've done several videos on it, and I'm very passionate about the subject. And I think that the FA are being very short-sighted in their plans to sell, because technically, if you look at the various reports that have been released, they're going to sell for a loss. And the stadium isn't even, paid off yet. There's still outstanding creditors, and there's still outstanding money that the investors and the developers want back. So yeah, I've got concerns about the FA's proposed sale of Wembley. A lot of people do, and I don't think they're going to listen to the majority fan base of people, and they're going to sell the stadium to a private owner who could at any point be a pain in the arse and say, no, I don't want England playing their internationals here. No, I don't want the FA Cup here anymore. That could generally happen. And it means they're going to have to rent the headquarters of someone. I mean, we got to this situation because 20 odd years ago, Wembley was not owned by the FA. And then it got bought so they could develop it, and they've owned it. They've owned the land since 2000, and now they're just willing to sell it for less than what it's worth. It's insane. It makes no sense to me. And it's like Twickenham being sold by the RFU, or Lords being sold by the ECB. It makes no logical sense. But the FA have got money problems, and so they've decided to do a quick cash grab, short-term gain. Long-term, they've still got the financial problems they're going to have. And this is not going to solve it long-term. The FA has got so many structural problems, it's unreal. So we just have to wait and see, what comes of it, and where we go. But personally, I can't see this particularly ending well for the FA if it does go ahead. Expect some pushback from fans, owners of clubs, teams, players, media. Expect some pushback, because if they go ahead with it, the FA really looks amateur hour, absolute amateur hour. So that's that. There's a few other bits and pieces going on. I mean, obviously Arsene Wenger's coming to the end of his tenure at Arsenal, and they gave away a sloppy goal against Atletico when they were in command of the game. Liverpool gave away 2 sloppy goals against Roma, so they've got to be careful in the second leg. Bayern Munich were clearly outplayed by Real Madrid. So the Champions League and Europa League are hotting up. Oxlade-Chamberlain's out of the World Cup. Knee damage, knee ligament problems. And we've still got a good 3 weeks left of the season, so players can still get injured and suspended. So there are so many English players who deserve a call-up that aren't getting the attention from Southgate, because Southgate is, well, a gutless manager. So there's that. But I'll be interested to see, like, when people start asking questions, what their views on what, their thoughts are on various things. So yeah, I'm just gonna check the news and have a look. What else is broken lately? Because for things, let's have a look. So on the battery lasts. It's got football. That'd be interesting. Italy are playing Great Britain in the Ice Hockey World Championships, and this is a key game for Great Britain in trying to get to the next level in international ice hockey, to the top tier, at the top table. So that's really, really interesting. But of course, it's not been shown on the BBC Sport website because BBC are gutless. But there's nothing really breaking at the moment. I mean, let's have a look else. Of course, this is Wenger's last time at Man United taking a team there for Arsenal, so that's going to be interesting. There's a lot going on, really. A lot going on. Tony Belly's been linked to a move to MMA, but I don't see that taking place. It's too far on in his career, to be brutally honest. Stranger things have happened, haven't they? So yeah, all told, there's been a lot going on in sport, and it's mostly to do with the Wembley sale or proposed sale, and I'm completely disagree with how they've gone around the whole thing. Well, we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, no, there's a lot to be concerned about in the sense that what happens if this guy has financial problems? For example, what happens if this guy has money problems? If he hits financial problems, does that mean the FA buy the stadium back for more than it's worth? Because they're selling it for less than it's worth. So we just have to wait and see, really. We have to see what comes of all this, because I look knackered, so I'm keeping the shades on. I'm absolutely dead to the world. So much crap on my channel. We honestly have to see what happens. I mean, I've made 2 videos on the subject. The one I'm very balanced, and I'm biased as I can be on channels all about. The other one is just sod it, I'm being me, and I really rip into the FA about so many issues the FA has. This is just another problem the FA does not need right now. It doesn't need it right now. And I honestly believe it is a very short-sighted move on the FA's part to get as much money as quickly as possible to cover the fact that they're financially irresponsible, and that they have been for quite some time. The FA have not been financially well governed financially for years, decades. They pumped a lot of money into St George's Park, and I think that's a waste of cash. That high performance centre at St George's Park, that is a complete waste of money. The Wembley Stadium took 6 years to build, and they're still paying it off. 17 years after the opening day. It's a joke. And now, like, apparently this deal's been on the table for many months. It didn't happen overnight. This has been going on since last year. It's the first we hear of it is yesterday. That is not a transparent organisation. That is an organisation with problems. I mean, any Aluko proved that organisation had problems. That is lack of transparency, lack of clarity on what they want to do. And I asked this question to Americans. Then I asked this question to the Yanks: if you guys in America who follow the NHL, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, what would you do if because all your teams are owned by Americans? You would go nuts in not a good way if a foreign owner took over. Let's say a Chinese billionaire wants to buy Madison Square Garden or Yankee Stadium. You guys would go absolutely bloody bananas. You would riot. So this is the question I ask: what gives you then the right to come over here and nick all our stuff then? Because I think there's globalisation in sport, and it's taking the piss. Because the FA has lost touch with the fan base. Completely and utterly lost touch with the fan base. And it's not good. Not good. People, there's a lack of trust in the Football Association. There's a lack of trust with what's going on with, where the direction the Football Association are going to take I mean, the direction that what happens to where England play games, because people tend to forget that the last time England playing games on the road when Wembley was being rebuilt, the clubs themselves that hosted the games, not the FA, paid for policing and security costs. The FA didn't lift a finger to help with that, and these clubs had to bid for money to get the rights to have the game there. That's what gets me, is the FA were willing to take these clubs' money at the same time making them spend money to have the game. And then you've got to look at Huddersfield having their academy shut down. Not a finger lifted to help. None. Yet this sale is all about getting grassroots football and youth development. Well, then why the hell has the FA not stepped in with certain clubs when they clearly need help? Willing to take their money, not willing to give it back. Support. It's wrong. It is wrong. So yeah, that's my view on a lot of things, really. So if anyone's like want to watch a little bit of the live stream before asking questions, that's what I've basically been discussing all day. Is the state of the FA and the state of why Wembley's been sold. Americans, if that happened in America, there would be probably a riot. There would be a riot. If, let's say, a Chinese or foreign billionaire came in to buy a team in America, I don't think they would have it. But apparently it's acceptable over here to sell all our assets off. And this is the issue the FA has. They've got a lot of property and a lot of assets. They're asset rich, they're financially poor. And this has been well documented over years. They've been financially mismanaged for over a decade. They've completely mismanaged the country's footballing finances for too long. And it has led to problems whereby they've run out of money. They have debt. Now, in January, they came out and they announced they had a budget in which to pay off the debt on the stadium on Wembley by 2024. That's 17 years after the stadium first opened, it'd be finally paid off. And that's not including the interest rate on there, because there'll be interest payments. And we, the taxpayer, fronted some of the money for that. People who pay taxes in this country put money forward so that Wembley could get rebuilt. And there was some private investment as well, but a lot of the money came from the taxpayer. Are we going to get a return on that? Just asking. Because from where I'm sitting and what I'm reading, the answer is big fuck off no. So yeah, I don't know what's on this live stream at the moment, but there are things to discuss, and of course I'm open to all questions. So if you join the live stream at any point, you're watching a replay of this live stream after the event, feel free to put things in the comments. Feel free to discuss things with me. I'm definitely happy to. I know there's a lot of people in favour of the Wembley sale. I am not one of them. And looking at on Twitter today, there's a lot of people against it. A lot more people than people think. And a lot of people are blind to the fact of what's actually going on here. There was someone on Twitter who said that, look at how much the foreign investment's helped English football. It really hasn't. Because the funny thing is, all these clubs that are foreign owned have got chronic amounts of debt. And look at the national side, it's got worse year on year. Because young English players are not getting a chance to play at their clubs. Because the foreign owners come in and bring foreign players with them with their money. The wages are unsustainable, the ticket prices are unsustainable, and fans are getting ripped off as a result. Financial fair play and the fit and proper persons test is a joke because the FA doesn't fully enforce it. They've cleared Wolves, because Wolves' opponents who, haven't been as good this season have been crying about how good Wolves have been, and the FA went, didn't really do much. Man City have basically bought themselves the title for the next 10 years because their shirt sponsor is owned by the same people that own the club. So it's a tax dodge. West Ham's owners have laundered money through the club to avoid paying tax. This is the thing, and the fit and proper persons test is never enforced. The same with financial fair play. It's just there as a token gesture. It's a PR move, that's all it is. So yeah, I covered that in one of my videos as well, a lot of the issues with the FA. and the FA does have a lot of issues. Now, it doesn't matter if you feel that Wembley should be in private hands or owned by the FA. I personally think it should be owned by the FA. The way they've gone about not being transparent what's been going on in the talks, they should have been transparent months ago. Apparently, this has been going on for months. This bid and the formalities. In about, like, it wouldn't surprise me when the FA Cup final, the day of the FA Cup final, they announced they pissing sold it. That wouldn't surprise me in the fucking slightest, because that's how callous the FA are. Ticket prices for the FA Cup final are £149. You tell me if that is acceptable, considering that a lot of the fans are coming from the northwest, which is not the wealthiest area in the country, and they've been asked to fork out 149 quid for tickets. That's before travel costs, food and drink, and hotels. You tell me if that is acceptable, because I personally don't think it is. And seriously, selling Wembley, right, is to a foreigner. So if it was to sell to a British person, that would be slightly different, because they'd be held to a higher level of account. But the fact is this: the guy who wants to buy Wembley, Sahid Khan, owns full. Just a thought. That should personally kill the deal in the water, because he owns a football club in this country. Does that mean he's going to get favourable treatment when the new rules get announced, European qualification, or whatever it may be? The preferential treatment now as a little sweetener, probably. Something about this deal doesn't smell right at all. And there's other things to talk about as well, but this is the thing that's been dominating my mind for the last couple of days. The fact that the FA have been a lack of transparency is a joke. This organisation gets government funding, and they're not being transparent about this deal to buy Wembley until yesterday. It's not right. It's not on. It's not right. It's unacceptable. I'm not happy with it. I mean, I don't know how fans are reacting to it around the world. And please, if you style, whack your questions in there. If you have thoughts on any other sport stories, please feel free to ask the questions necessary, and put your questions in there and throw them at me, because I'm more than happy to answer them. And I'm going to see if the chat is actually working, because we've had a few issues the last few live streams on the chat. So let's have a look. Oh, shit. Right, okay, we've got the Mike Talks Football. Right, here's the Tottenham, as part of their stadium rebuild. The way they're going to pay it off, they for the next 10 years. Now, at the moment, the NFL takes between 4 and 6 games. It's down to that a year played in London. That's the idea, is to have rounds, so it could vary from year to year. Personally, the NFL has got a collective bargaining agreement. Okay, the NFL has got a collective bargaining agreement, which is the same as the NHL, which basically means the players could go on strike, or the owners could lock them out with issues with contracts. Remember that. This guy owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've already seen on Twitter and on other videos on American football fans in the US. So I'm going to ask this question to Americans, for example. How would Americans feel if I want to move them? How would they feel? They would go bananas. They would go absolutely mad. The thing is, it's a very expensive borough. It's in a very expensive area of London as well. So the land is expensive. He's only worth 5.2 billion US. So the fact he spent $1 billion US allegedly on this deal is a fifth of what he's worth. It wouldn't surprise me if he's at some point problems. What happens? Does that mean the FA has to buy back their stadium for more than it's worth? Because they're selling it for less than it's worth. So they're making a loss on this. The connection, I can't. This is the connection that I'm in. Hopefully, the connection. But no, yeah, no. Honestly, on our channel, and I don't know what I have the last 2 days, but the FA has now said this deal has been in the pipeline for months. The yes. And I don't think the NFL would allow him to have a team over here in the UK because other leagues, the NHL, they've been questioned about having a European team, be it in London or somewhere else in Europe. And the NHL would be most likely Germany to have a franchise. And the NBA came here to play this season, and the chief operating officer for Boston said it's never going to happen. The timings are all out because we're at least 5 hours ahead of the East Coast. So to get the prime TV time, you're going to have games in the middle of the night. With the local infrastructure here, we have trade unions in this country, and the Labour Party don't want to have a modern underground system which works 24 hours a day. They only want to have it for 18 hours a day or something. So, yeah, which could increase employment prospects, by the way. But no, they don't want to do that. So which I think is wrong, getting to and from, let's say, Wembley. Both stated that to have a franchise actually cost more than it's worth. Infrastructure place and infrastructure, travel. You've got to work out with the players be willing to travel here and travel back. That will mean they miss training. Also, got to be important. These big major leagues don't lose money, and I don't think British pay American sport ticket prices. We're already not happy with the amount we're paying for sport. So, I mean, right. Let's see if we can get this chat to work. Right, chat. Here we go. Right. Okay. Right. Well, since my internet connection is as good as it's going to get, so unless I have to move myself down to like, it could be to do with the weather. The weather side, so we may have some weather issues affecting my internet as well. How many of you actually the connectivity to relocate myself? This is going downstairs and you get a tour of my house. Very important because at the moment, public ownership. The FA is funded by and all the clubs that are members of the FA pay a fee to be a member of the FA. So it gets a lot of money out of us some way. So every time we buy a football shirt, every time you buy the issue, I have to move downstairs because for some reason my internet just doesn't want to fucking cooperate again. Useless bloody thing. All right, let's migrate. The internet is chronic. Right, we're going downstairs. We're going on a little wander. Oh, this is so uncomfortable. Oh, we're at it. Nope, you can't go in there. There's no pissing. Right, that can move. We're migrating. Migrating is good. Migrating is exceptionally good. Oh, shit. Oh, I just love having to migrate. I really do. The internet in my house. Oh, shit. The The internet in my house is absolutely horrific and has been for years. My internet provider is going to get a very abusive email from me. Right. Okay. Oh, where's the bloody plug socket? Right. That's better. Cool. Right, how's the internet connectivity now, chaps? Right, no, I'm not able to watch the hockey because it's only on BBC Radio. If the deal does go ahead, right, if the deal goes ahead, that's going to be interesting if the deal goes ahead, to be honest. Personally, I hope it doesn't. I think it's a short-sighted deal by the FA. They've got money problems, so I'm going to get interrupted now. But yeah, can everyone hear me, or is this just not working in this room either? Because I've had to migrate, and I don't like migrating. Migrating is not fun. Let's have a look. I wouldn't be surprised if my chat's probably crashed. Let's have a look at the chat. No, chat's good. Oh, fucking thing. Bloody internet. Right, okay, we've worked out that we're not. Okay, this is as good as we're going to get. Right, let's check. Yeah, mic's on. Okay, with the Wembley thing, the Wembley deal, it's short time. The FA has run out of money. Even if they do sell this and make 500 million on the stadium, 300 million on Club Wembley, they're going to be out of money again within a couple of years. This is a short-term fix. The FA has structural problems. The FA has had structural problems for years. They have mismanaged their finances for decades. They seriously have. The FA has not run its ship correctly at all. So if you were to ask me what I feel about ticket prices, we've discussed this before, far too high. Especially with the TV deal that grows year on year. The ticket price, far too high. The amount of clubs in financial difficulty. How many more? Yeah, maybe Greg Dyke should. I think the thing is, the people who run the game in this country and around the world, there's too much corruption. There's not enough transparency, and that keeps coming up. The transparency issue of organisations, especially organisations which do get some government funding, which the FA does. We helped pay for the stadium as well. So the stadium is going to make a loss. The FA will make a loss on the stadium, and they've still got 6 years to pay it off. It won't be fully paid off for another 6 years. So, yeah, but Greg Dyke, no. I don't dislike Greg Dyke. I think he's a decent enough chap in himself. But it just seems that the people who've been running the FA for the last 20, 30 years, most of them don't understand football. They take us, the fans, for granted. I mean, look at the price for the FA Cup final tickets. Okay, put that into consideration. 140 odd quid for tickets. 140 odd quid, right? I can go down my local ice rink and watch my local hockey team play for less than £12.50 for an adult ticket. And yeah, that's not including transport and food and drink, but look at the price differential. Football is far too expensive, especially with the amount of money in the game. From the TV deals, the sponsorship deals, the ownership. We are paying too much. We are paying too much. And I don't want to have this live stream dominated by the Wembley issue, but it is an important issue, and I do feel that most of us are against this. But who's actually in favour of it and who's against it? That is a question that I should ask. So if you feel free, if you're in favour of selling Wembley, put it in the chat. If you're against selling Wembley, put it in the chat. Personally, I'm against. I've done 2 videos on the topic. Yesterday I did a video where I gave a balanced opinion of pros and cons. It's what my channel's about. It's about not being biased, and it's about giving an opinion whereby, because I'm not a fan of certain teams, I'll still do videos on them. I give my opinion on the situation. But then I give my real personal view on it, and I tell you now, I give the FA two fingers, really. Right, okay, we've got one person who's against selling, okay. That's two. That says something. If you all came back and said you're against selling, that will be damning. That's three. I mean, we've had more people watching. We've obviously had connectivity issues, which I do apologise about. I think it's to do with the weather, because it is an absolute grotty night outside here where I am in England. It's pissing down. So everyone in the lobby is against selling. Okay, in that case, there's a petition online which I've signed today about the English Football League and how that's being badly run as well, and how the game in this country needs an independent body to regulate and oversee it. I wouldn't be surprised if this also gets a petition to stop it, because the guy owns Fulham, and that's fair enough. He owns a football club. I have no problem with that. And to be fair, he's been a half decent owner for Fulham, apart from their relegation period, and the fact it took a while for him to get used to British style sport rather than American style sport because of promotion relegation. He took a while to get his head around it. They finally on the way up. But here's the thing at Fulham: they've gone through a lot of managers in his 5 years of owning that club, and a relegation, and they're not certain to go back into the Premier League either. So there's that. If they fail to get back in the Premier League, this gets interesting. If he does buy Wembley, that's the headquarters of the FA. Yeah, there was. Yeah, last year when you had the Eni Aluko racism scandal, and there was the Mark Sampson women's side, there was a vote that they did have a discussion and debate stating that the FA needed structural reform. What scares me is not that they're saying we should have more people of colour or more people of ethnic diversity. That's not the issue. The issue is there's no ex-players at the top level of running the game. No ex-referees, no ex-coaches. It's all these middle-aged, grey men and a few women. They're all middle-aged. None of them have ever played football professionally or semi-professionally. The last time they kicked a ball, they were like 12 years old down the park before they got mugged by the big boys with their football. Most of them have been to like Oxford or Cambridge, so they've been to upper-class universities. They're not in step with the actual fan bases that exist. There has been many discussions in Parliament about the running of the game. The fact it took 6 years. I mean, Tottenham are doing their stadium rebuild in 18 months. Okay, the stadium's about 10,000 less capacity or something, or 20,000 less capacity, but they're doing exactly the same thing Wembley did, turning the stadium on 90-degree axis, rebuilding it from the ground up, and they're almost finished it. So I'm surprised it actually took 6 years to build Wembley, and the fact it won't be paid off for another 6 is pretty damning. Tottenham at least have put a plan in place. They've gone to, they've said, right, we want to have NFL games here as well to help pay off the stadium debt. Doing it different to Arsenal. Arsenal decided to stay at Highbury till the Emirates was built. Hence why they've been very conservative in the transfer market. So what Wenger's done at Arsenal is brilliant by constantly getting to Europe. They've now paid off their stadium. They did it a different way to the way Tottenham are going to do it. But no, the FA are going to undersell the stadium. They're going to sell it for less than it's worth. And I bet you this guy gets into financial problems at some point, and we have to buy it back for more than it's worth. Also, I'm interested to hear where all you guys are from. I'm assuming you're all British, but if not, just put down where in the world you're from, and it gives me an idea of each person's viewpoint and each person's kind of interest on this topic, because I want to try and get an American on it and discuss it with them. Because I don't. If I was, let's say, Shropshire, okay, we've got possibly a Shrewsbury fan. I feel sorry for you. Promoted. I think it's overrated. I've been to almost every single stadium in London apart from Wembley. Hereford. Herefordshire. Oh, you're a Hereford fan. Again, I feel very sorry for you, because again, your club was mismanaged and the FA did not step in when it was clear there were issues there. It's another issue. Now, I'm from Berkshire, so I'm from the other side of England, but I will say this. It is pretty damning when Huddersfield Town are having to shut their academy because the Big Six clubs are illegally tapping up their players and undervaluing them, so and they can't afford to keep their players because the young players are being tapped up and been offered big money away from their FA hasn't lifted a finger to help them. Then you've got to look at the teams that have had financial problems, such as Hereford, such as Portsmouth, Plymouth, Bolton, Luton. We're going to dock your points. We're going to make sure you get relegated so you actually have more financial problems. That's how the FA does things. This is why the game needs to have complete structural reform, top to bottom in the FA. They need more ex-players, more ex-coaches, more ex-referees to help govern the game. Because the way the VAR system is being trialled this season has been an absolute fucking joke. Because instead of doing it in the pre-season, which would have been a good idea, they've decided to do it in competitive cup matches, which winner takes all, the loser gets nothing. The Big Six clubs have tried to get themselves rich from the next TV deal and keep the other clubs poorer, and the FA haven't done anything. There's issues with fit and proper persons test. That's a joke. Look at the amount of dodgy owners in the league. Up and down every level of the pyramid. Financial fair play. That's just a soundbite. It's because it's broke. The FA has got no money. It's got loads of assets. So it's built St George's Park in Staffordshire. It's got Wembley. It's got a few other properties around and offices, but it's run out of money. So this is a cash grab. And the problem is the financial issues are still going to be in place because the FA is bleeding money right now. Bleeding money. And has been for a very long time. Asset-wise, they've got a lot of property they could sell, hence why Wembley is on the market. The issue is they've got a lot of debts, and they haven't paid the stadium off, and the stadium's still got 6 years to be paid off. I'm not sure about St George's Park, how much they've got to pay off on that, but the FA is bleeding money all over the place. It's bleeding money. And somehow they've got to stop the bleeding, which means structural reform. To sell off Wembley and then have to pay rent to rent your offices at Wembley and to pay for England to play there. It's a joke. The FA will, all that money they're going to make, it's not going to go into youth development and pitches. Bullshit, is it? All they're going to do is they're going to go to Parliament, say they got a good deal. They're going to try and back up the fact they've got a good deal for the stadium, which they haven't. Yeah, they're like Judas. They're going to go to Parliament and say, yeah, we've got a good deal on the stadium, which they haven't. They've undervalued it. They're selling it for less than it's worth. And then they're going to say, we've made a profit this year, and now let's give our executive bonuses. I don't believe a word that's come out of the FA. The FA have not lifted a finger to help clubs in distress. They punish them. They haven't lifted a finger to help to help Huddersfield keep their academy open and to enforce the youth player rules. They've allowed the Big Six clubs to tap up their players and done nothing to stop it. And no, I have no faith in the FA. None. And the Eni Aluko scandal, completely mishandled. Completely mishandled. From the moment there was an issue there, they mishandled it so badly. And they didn't do due diligence on Mark Sampson. Even though he's a great coach and he did great things with England side, because he had an extramarital affair with one of his ex-players at Bristol Academy, the FA might have slightly forgot to look at that. It's a joke. And the issue with Sam Allardyce and the issue with Capello and Sven, there's not enough young players playing at the top level. 30 to 40% any given weekend. That's not enough. There's not enough coaches getting involved in the game, and there's an issue with officiating as well. Not enough people are wanting to get involved grassroots. It doesn't matter how many pitches you fucking build. If no one wants to play the pissing game at grassroots, there's your problem. The FA has completely neglected the grassroots game for too long, and now they're panicking, and they're going to say all this money's going to get invested back into. In that case, help Huddersfield reopen their youth academy then. If you're that interested in youth development, give some money to Huddersfield so they can reopen their youth academy out of $1 million. They won't. They should. They've taken enough money off Huddersfield over the years. Time to put it back in. But I've done videos on it, and I wouldn't mind talking about some few other things because I could go on about this all night, and we'll work out we're all against it, and we are. Let's be honest, we are all pretty much against the sale of Wembley. Do the FA give a toss? No. Does this Sahid Khan give a toss? No, not really. Ticket prices will go up. They will. So for those who've been saying, "Oh, this is going to be good for football because then the prices will come down," no, he's in private ownership. He's got to make a profit on £800 million he's just spent. He's going to want to make a lot of money. Prices will go up. NFL, I don't want NFL there anymore. I don't. I've got bored of it now. It's a cash grab by the NFL. It's kind of a bit much, really. Especially when two of the other major leagues in North America ruled out having a franchise over here in the UK or in Europe because of the cost. The NFL has got its own crisis going on. The commissioner's about to get fired because he lied in a court case or something. There's issues with concussion issues, drug issues, all sorts with the NFL. I don't want that grubby organisation having a franchise over it. No, thank you. I don't think the local infrastructure can go anyway, but they don't care. These Americans, they're arrogant bastards. No, they're not, because the pitch is then wrecked. The so-called hybrid pitch can't hack it. I've completely gone off it. It's a cash grab. It's a shameless cash grab. Jacksonville do not have enough fans over here in the UK. They don't. Every fan base of the NFL has fans in this country. Are you going to tell me that the other 31 fan bases are going to take their shirts off and buy to Jacksonville? Absolutely fucking not. Bearing in mind the Miami Dolphins, they have a rivalry with Jacksonville. You take Jacksonville away from Florida, you weaken the game. And of course, over here we don't have a salary cap. We don't have a collective bargaining agreement between the players and the league and the owners. Oh, the Patriots now. Look, they're bandwagon fans. Let's just say that. Okay, Patriot fans are bandwagon fans. The Patriots suck. They cheat. They've been caught cheating, and because they're like the biggest fan base, they get away with it. It's the same. The richest clubs try and keep the poorer clubs down, and they cheat to do it. Simple. I can't stand the Patriots. Tom Brady's a scumbag. Can't stand him. Couldn't care less. I've got bored with the NFL now. I have not missed a Super Bowl for 12 years. Next year, I might give it a miss. I might. I've got to the point now where it's a shameless cash grab. It really is. The infrastructure struggles every single piercing time. I don't think the locals want to have it, really. The amount you have to pay to get a ticket to an NFL game over here in the UK is too much. My friend Ollie goes to every single NFL game in the UK. Every single one. He's been to every single one. He's lucky. He's got a good job. He's an accountant for Sainsbury's. He's lucky. He's got a very, very good job. But my God, it's cost him an arm and a leg every time. But he can afford it. Now, when you're talking about average fans, they can't. And they're not always on TV because you've got to pay for Sky or you've got to pay for BT, which is a rip-off. And I refuse to do that. So when people say, "Oh, if you got Sky or BT, you could do more videos," yeah, I probably could, but then I will be going against my principles. And I'm not giving Rupert Murdoch or the BT Group any more of my money. My internet's with BT, and look how shocking it's been tonight. No, I'm not giving them any more money. They're a joke. I mean, the quality, and a lot of players have said, it puts a lot of strain on them because of the jet lag, the time difference. They miss out on training days. They miss out on recovery days. And this is the issue. If you want to have a major league franchise over here, especially say it's playoffs, right? The playoff games go all over the US. We are 5 hours ahead of the East Coast and 8 hours ahead of the West Coast. You work that one out. So if the East Coast wants a game to be on at 8 p.m. their time, add on 5 hours. That's 1 o'clock in the morning. They would have to play that game. Who the hell is going to want to go to a stadium at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning for a regular season or a playoff game? How are you going to get home? It will cost you a fortune. This is why it won't work. But there we go. I think the NFL games in London now, they've lost their mystique. We know what it's all about. It's just bright colours and loud, brash Americans who are arrogant in your face. That's all it is now. It's a shameless cash grab by the NFL because they were losing money in the American market to NBA. That's why they did it. They were losing out on the Major League Sports market. They were losing out on money. They had this CTE lawsuit. They've got to make some more money to pay off this lawsuit. It's a cash grab. It's what the FA are doing with selling Wembley. It is a cash grab. They've got financial difficulties. They're having a bit of a wobble. Let's sell our assets off. Oh, I'm taking my gaze off now. My eyes are red. But it is what it is. I mean, there's been some great stories in sport lately, but unfortunately, these negative ones trump it all the time. All the time. I mean, we could discuss many sports that have similar issues, many of them. And, we could discuss Arsene Wenger's legacy, and we could have a good discussion about Arsene Wenger's legacy and how he's been a positive influence on the game. I think that should be more newsworthy of what he's done in 22 years at Arsenal than the FA making a cash grab because they run out of money. That would be my personal view on it. But it is what it is. The sad thing is, like, I think the FA have made up their mind. And I think Wembley is going to be in foreign hands, and then we're going to be feeling the consequences for years. Years and years and years. I'm surprised this hasn't gone before Parliament, and I'm surprised it's not a conflict of interest because the guy owns Fulham. The FA seem quite happy to sell to him. Far too happy to sell to him. But what can we do, eh? I don't think there's a lot we can do, and we'll just have to see what the future holds. I'm not confident on the long-term prospects going forward. I'm really not. Yes, it would be nice to see some more, England games outside of London, maybe. But here's the thing: the FA doesn't pay for the policing and the security costs. The clubs that host the games do. So when Ellen Road gets the, I think it's England Nigeria or England Costa Rica friendly in a month and a half's time, Leeds United have to pay for those costs, not the FA. It's simple. They, but I don't know what else we can really talk about on the Wembley thing. I mean, I think the FA are going to go ahead with the sale, whether we agree with it or not, and whether we get a say in it or not. I honestly think it should be put before Parliament because the taxpayer helped fund the build of that stadium, and I don't think we've got our money's worth, really, and they're selling it too cheap. And I think there's a conflict of interest because the guy owns Fulham. If I'm brutally honest, I think there is a conflict of interest there, but I don't know what else can be done, really. I think the FA made their minds up. They have to be transparent about it. And there we go. That's the end of that. We could discuss the possible aftermath from it and the possible outcomes, but I can't see anything positive coming out of it because the FA will still have the structural problems and the FA is still bleeding money. The FA are still losing money somewhere because otherwise how they have these massive debts that keep growing year on year. If they come out in January and say they have a payment plan to pay off the stadium and they've come to an agreement with the creditors and with the developers and with the investors to say, here's your money back, worries me. Worries me a lot. I wouldn't say the stadium would cost $2 billion to build now either, but to me, they are undervaluing the stadium completely. Plus, the stadium is already out of date anyway. It's already out of date. So it's going to need upgrading at some point, and I think the FA have gone out of upgrading it. And whether this Saeed Khan will want to upgrade the stadium with his money, or whether he would sell it on and probably make a profit out of it, only time will tell. Right, let's see what other questions have been asked, because my chat looks like it's playing up again, which is not great. Okay, so if anyone else has got any other questions, we can keep talking about the FA issues, or we could talk about sports. I'm happy to cover everything and anything. Let's have a look. What's going on here? No one is in the chat. That's great. See what we got. Yeah, no. If anyone's got any other questions, feel free to ask away. I mean, I'm more than happy to talk about multiple things, but we've covered a lot on the FA, and therefore that is an interesting topic in itself. Let's have a quick look, see what's happening on the good old BBC Sport website, because this is interesting. My phone is being really stupid today, but I'm interested to hear what you guys have, what thoughts you guys have on multiple things. Aberdeen are beating Hearts 2-0. That I find interesting. Sunderland are leading Fulham. So Fulham. What do I think about that? That's again mismanagement. They're beating Fulham at the moment, but they've been mismanaged for a very, very long time. And the owner is just in denial. Chris Coleman hasn't been given any funds to do anything since he was brought in November. Their average attendance is down by 10,000. Their wage bill was too high for what is going to be League One. They really are a club in a mess. They're doing a Portsmouth. They're doing a Leeds. They're doing a Bradford City. They're doing an Oldham. I'm not a Sunderland fan, nor do I pretend to be, but that club is in a serious, serious mess right now. Serious mess. And it comes back to the FA. The fit and proper persons test is not being implemented. They should regularly assess the strengths of all the clubs and see the health of all the clubs on a yearly basis, because so many clubs have money problems. Sunderland are crippled with debt. Crippled. Fans are staying away in droves. Absolute droves. Fans are not turning up to games. Fans are staying away. And the longer that goes on, the worse it's going to get. The owner's not investing any money. He shows no interest and already cares, and the club is bleeding money. They're making a loss. It wouldn't surprise me if soon they have a winding up order from HM Revenue and Customs. They wouldn't be the first club. But it's nice mismanagement. It's a playing group that clearly just isn't good enough. Yeah, no, it's a problem. Football players are overpaid, completely overpaid. Um, and this is another issue: is there's got to be a salary cap to stop things like this happening, because so many clubs have had financial problems in the last 10, 20 years. So many. Um, but look at the agents' fees. You've got to look at the salaries. 70 grand. I mean, Sanchez is on £34 million a year. The highest paid NHL player is on 10 million US dollars a year, which is about 8 million a year. That is the disparity in how overpaid football players are. The Sunderland, other clubs have been there like Sunderland, Wolves, Leeds, Bradford City, Oldham, Swindon used to be in the Premier League back in the day. People forget that. Oxford United, Accrington Stanley have been thrown out of the Football League. Luton Town, they plummeted down the divisions. My team Blackburn, everyone goes, oh, but no, you're getting promoted back to the Championship. Yeah, but if that's in US dollars, bearing in mind that's in US dollars, Conor McDavid. So you take a bit of money off that, you're on about 8 to 10 million a year. But Conor McDavid, yeah, he's the highest paid ice hockey player right now. He's still earning less than the highest paid football players. There's a reason why he's paid how much he is and why he won't earn much more than that. It's because there's a salary cap in place. The salary cap is there to reduce costs or to control them. There isn't. This is why Portsmouth, Sheffield Wednesday, Wolves, Luton. I could name a list of ex-Championship and Premier League clubs that have hit money problems because they are forced to pay exorbitantly high wages to keep their good players. Otherwise, a richer club will take them. There's a reason why Huddersfield have had to shut their academies, because the richer clubs are illegally tapping up their players and luring them away for bigger money. And the FA does nothing, because the FA is a gutless organisation. But this is one of the reasons why I'm going off football. There is no transparency in the sport. There is no transparency in the governing body. The lack of accountability is worrying. The fact that this deal to buy Wembley, this bid, has been in the pipeline for months, and we didn't even know about it until yesterday, is wrong. Absolutely 100% wrong. It's not right. It is wrong. They have had no transparency in anything. This is the governing body that's meant to govern the game in this country, and they're going to sell out to a foreigner. How is that a good sign? How is that a good thing? Like, seriously, when clubs like Sunderland, and you've got to look at clubs like Port Vale that have got winding up orders, and Plymouth and Portsmouth. Did the FA help them when they were in trouble? No. Did they give a damn? No. Did they let them struggle? Did they dock them points? Yeah. Did the English Football League dock them points? Yeah. Did they punish them and punish the fans and make it harder for them to make the money? Of course they did. Did they help them? No. This is the problem. The FA is more than willing to take clubs' money to be a member of the FA, be governed by the FA. When that club needs help, they don't give a damn. They don't. There's no salary cap. There's no transparency. Agents are earning too much money. The players are earning too much money. Ticket prices keep going up year on year. They do. And there is complete lack of basically understanding the average fan and what the average fan is. The average fan is a working man or woman with kids. They did a survey, and this is the damning thing about football in this country: is the average age of a football fan who goes to games is 41 and on a salary of £36,000 a year or more, and he's white and he's male. So there's a reason why we're not getting a lot of ethnic minorities in football management and in governance and in coaching, because they're not the average fan base. Young people have been put off the game. The pay-per-view sports system is failing because young people my age or younger are just finding VPNs. They're getting around paying for it. They want to stream. They want free to air. They don't want to pay. They don't have the money to pay. And unfortunately, these TV deals, they want to get Amazon Prime involved. It's sod off. Have you heard how Amazon treat their workers? I don't want them involved in sport. They treat their workers like slaves. But the FA doesn't care as long as it makes its money. See? The FA would sell its mother if it had one. And its mother being UEFA and its grandfather being FIFA. They would sell them to make money. They couldn't care less. They couldn't give a toss. That is the situation football is in right now. Is the governance of the game from top to bottom is rotten to the core. There is no accountability. Any of these people. None. Now, I've gone on about the Wembley sale and football for an hour, and don't get me wrong, I love your questions. I love talking about these subjects with you guys. I like hearing and seeing what questions you've got or what topics you want to discuss, and we can do that all night. We could do it for hours. Yeah, Alexis Sanchez could actually buy any club in the Championship or League One with how much he's paid. 34.5 million a year in salary. That's before bonuses and that's before his endorsements. That is filthy money. That is where football's gone horribly, horribly wrong. And yet football's so resistant to using technology and having a salary cap. Let's have a look at other sports. Look at the NBA. They've got a salary cap, okay? The poorest team in the NBA is worth $1 billion at the moment. So if the worst team in the NBA is worth $1 billion, $1 billion US, it says that a salary cap system can work. It can. And if you get the system right and the players buy in, the owners and the fans, you have a successful league with no problems. And there are a few issues with the NBA. Let's not say it's perfect, but my God, that is a well-run league. And if the NBA says you can't have a franchise in Europe because it would cost more than it would make, I'm very surprised the NFL are persisting in possibly allowing Jacksonville Jaguars to move to the UK. If the other major league, their major competitor, which is slaughtering them at the box office, making more money than them, is saying it's not a good idea. Says to me it's a short-term cash grab. Yes, Alexis Sanchez could actually afford to buy a football club in League One, the lower end of the Championship, League Two. He could even probably buy a Premier League club for that. He could buy shares in a Premier League club. It is wrong. They are paid far too much. And I don't know how many of you actually go to football regularly, and are, you know, if you do, how much you pay, who you support. My God, there's got to come a point where enough is enough. We ain't going to take it anymore. The thing is, it needs every fan base up and down the country to go and have protests at the same time, and to protest outside the Premier League headquarters, and to protest outside the English League Football League headquarters, and to protest outside the FA. Yes, no, Memphis. Yeah, they are worth $1 billion US. They are. Memphis Grizzlies are worth $1 billion. That is what is funny. The poorest team in the NBA is still worth $1 billion US as of last year, and that is with a league with a salary cap and the highest salaries in the world. The NBA players are actually paid more than Premier League football players. They earn the most. But that proves that league is making money. It's well run, it's well governed, and there you go. But that is true. The Memphis Grizzlies. Well, here's the thing: how much are you paying to go see Celtic Rangers? That's what I want to find interesting: is how much you're being charged for a ticket, and what the average ticket price is. But that's in Scotland, so the Scottish FA has got their own problems. But selling Wembley is like selling Twickenham from the RFU ban. We don't want Twickenham anymore. We're going to sell it. It's like selling Lords, the cricket ground. It's literally like saying, right, this is the headquarters of the sport internationally. We're going to sell it. 25. That's not too bad, but again, it is Scottish football compared to English football. The FA Cup final tickets, 149 quid. The cheapest tickets were 45, and they've all gone. They were snapped up in seconds, and they didn't have enough of them. And fans are complaining. They're saying the ticket price is far too high, and that's not taken into consideration transport costs to and from Wembley, food and drink. 25 is good, but bear in mind that is a Scottish League game, and the Scottish Premier League's got its own problems, which we've discussed on this channel with the lack of competitiveness. Although Aberdeen are winning right now 2-0, so. But even so, you've got to work out that there are problems in Scottish football that are different to problems in English football. The causes are different for the problems, but the outcome is the same. I would say that is reasonable. But every fan says we're going to win every game. It's called an optimistic fan. It's a very optimistic fan. But at the end of the day, as a Rangers fan, you've been through crap for 10 years. You deserve to have something good to happen to your club. You've had nothing but financial instability and poor mismanagement for 10 years. So I wish Rangers all the best. Even though I'm not a Rangers fan, I'd rather see every club financially stable and doing reasonably well and having a chance to compete. Sadly, that's not the case. Yes, Steven Gerrard, he is linked to the job because I don't think Graham Murty is going to be there next year. And I think the board haven't given Murty a hope in hell. He was only going to manage to the end of the season anyway. But I think Graham Murty's been let down by the owners. Personally, Steven Gerrard, he's never managed before. He's only doing a bit of youth coaching at Liverpool, so this is going to be real interesting because if he makes any blunders and they lose ground to Aberdeen and Celtic further and they take a step backwards, that'd be a bad way to start his managerial career. I would hope that Gerrard would start in English football because English football needs more young coaches, and he's apparently doing really well coaching the young Liverpool youth players. It would have been nice to see him manage at an English club in any division first. I think he has the mentality of a player that could have survived in an Old Firm derby because he played in many Merseyside and Liverpool-Manchester derbies, and he's won Champions Leagues and things like that, and European trophies. But throwing him into the Rangers job, that's a club that needs stability, and I think that may be the wrong move for him. Well, we've gone on to Scottish football, something I know not as much about as English football. It's good to see St Mirren back in the Scottish Premier League if they are going up. Brendan Rodgers, Celtic, well, they've had it easy for too long. And what Scottish football needs is some people to invest in some of the other clubs because fans are switching off Scottish football. They're not going to games outside of a few clubs. You think Celtic, Aberdeen, Rangers, Motherwell, Hibs and Hearts, maybe both the Dundee clubs. You outside of that, there's not enough fans going to games. There's a lot of empty seats, and they're not getting enough money off the TV deals. They're not competitive in European competition. Scottish football, they haven't qualified for the World Cup or Euros since '98. There are problems there that run deep, and we shall see. If Stephen Gerrard does get the Rangers job, that might increase interest in Scottish football. That could be an upside for it. But I would have hoped to have seen him coach in England. And cut his teeth in England before taking a gig outside the UK, because I don't think he hasn't got experience. And the Rangers need someone who can get the best out of these players and get them winning again trophies. But it is what it is. I don't know. I couldn't tell you if it. He's been strongly linked to it, but the season isn't over yet. Many things can happen, and we should see. The thing is, the Edinburgh teams draw fans. Whether they get up or down at the Championship because they've also hit money problems is another thing. But they draw fans. That's what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about their position. I was talking about their fan bases and the fact that fans will turn up to Hibs Hearts games, Aberdeen, Motherwell. But here's the thing: we've discussed this before. There were plans to take Celtic and Rangers, and possibly Aberdeen, and place them in the. In fact, even I think both Edinburgh clubs. I think there was a plan put forward to take the clubs that I have aforementioned, take them out of the Scottish League system, and put them in the English League system, which would have killed Scottish football stoked dead in the water, and would have been catastrophic for finances of those clubs. And this was really before the advent of EasyJet and Ryanair. This is when those airlines were in their infancy, so to fly was expensive. Scottish football is already struggling. You need investment. Scottish football needs investment from wealthy people or fan ownership. It's the only way I can see Scottish football really getting back to the heights it was at in the 80s and 90s is either fan ownership or foreign investment. If Gerrard does get the Rangers job, that might help with the investment side of things and with the interest, because he's a big name. He's a big name. That might help with helping the game grow again. But my God, Rangers have a long way to go before they're back at the top level. The cup semi-final defeat 4-0 shows the gap that is there between Celtic and Rangers. It shows the gap that is in place. I've never seen an Old Firm derby so one-sided. So yeah, but to challenge Celtic, you need money. Rangers have not had money in over a decade. They've had money problems for a long time. Aberdeen can't spend as much as Celtic. They have less. Hibs and Hearts have both been out of the Scottish Premier League in the last decade as well. Motherwell are finally investing in their stadium. But at the moment, it's Celtic's league. It's like Paris Saint-Germain in France. They've bought the league. They have all the money. They have all the players. People won't watch games because you know the result of the league before the league even kicks off. You know who's going to win. Brendan Rodgers, I think, he's overrated as a coach. He didn't do very well at Liverpool, to be brutally honest. He was decent at Swansea, but I think he's had a very easy ride at Celtic. So it is what it is. I mean, the clubs aren't even. I mean, Scottish football needs investment quickly. Whether that comes from central government assisting, outside sources, or fans buying the clubs off their owners and getting more fan involvement, it needs some kind of change in direction. Because Scottish football has been declining for over 20 years. Yet another tournament will come this summer where Scotland are not at. So the 2000 Euros, the 02 World Cup, the 04 Euros, the 06 World Cup, the 08 Euros, 2010 World Cup, the 2012 Euros, the 2014 World Cup, 2016 Euros, and now the 2018 World Cup. Look at all those tournaments Scotland have missed since 1998. There's your problem. You're not producing quality players anymore who could play on the international scene at that level. You came reasonably close this time to having a shot at qualification. I will give Scotland that, but again, came up short in big games. Didn't have the toughness to get through the big games. So it's all well and good saying it takes a couple of clubs to say no and challenge Celtic. They've been trying. They just don't have the finances, the resources, or the players to do it. And there's still a big gap between Celtic and the rest. Even though Celtic aren't the team they were, say, a couple of years ago, the gap is still there. I don't know what else more to really say on that. But it is what it is. Scottish football is very uncompetitive. The league is obvious who's going to win every single season. Every single season. And then you've got to look at the issues with governance of the game, youth development, club finances. Till the bottom, no problems. Now, normally I wouldn't cover football so much on a live stream. There'd be other sports, but you guys want to talk about football tonight, so we'll talk about football. I'm happy to talk about other sports, though. I am happy to talk about other sports and take questions and see what you guys are interested in apart from football. But no, football has got problems, both north and south of the border, for different reasons, right? Different reasons. Although some of the outcomes are similar, the reasons for the problems are different. And I can see rugby going the same way. I can see rugby going the same way. Saracens are in a lot of debt themselves. They're in trouble. A lot of players may be leaving. There's unrest in the Saracens rugby union camp. So just because a team may have all the, be winning all the time doesn't mean they're all is well off the pitch. Hopefully, in time, Rangers and Aberdeen make it really interesting so it comes down to the last day of the season or the last week of the season or whatever it may be and close that gap. But I don't know. The Dutch league, even though it's not as good quality as it was, let's say, 10, 20 years ago, it already has 18 teams in the top division. I don't think the Dutch FA would sign off on that. The Belgian league, they've produced a lot of quality players that are now playing the Premier League or around Europe. Again, that may not work. Slovenia, Croatia, and Austria, they do have a shared hockey league in the sense that, yeah, they do. A lot of players will cross the border between the countries and may play in Croatia 1 year, and then so there's an ease of movement there. But at the same time, you've got to work out that the Dutch and Belgians will play their players in euros and the Scots will play their players in pounds, and there's an exchange rate. That's one thing that will scupper it. The Dutch and Belgian leagues actually have more teams in the top flight than the Scottish League does. And the Dutch and Belgian teams seem to be better in Europe. Even if they only get to the next round outside the knockout stages, they win that more games. I don't know if that would be a viable option week in, week out. If you were to combine the leagues, you've got to think of the away day travel. Would it be viable? That's an issue to put forward. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think the Dutch wouldn't be interested. I don't think the Belgians would be interested. Look at the quality of players the Belgians have produced in the last decade. They have a talent pool. Whether the league is competitive or not, because their best players leave, is another thing. But the amount of players they're producing right now, who are either playing in the Premier League or the other top leagues in Europe, and are winning trophies, and are competitive in Europe and playing top level. It's more than Scotland, so I don't think the Belgians would want to dilute their league with joining with a weaker league. Same with the Dutch. There's still talent coming out of the Dutch system. There's still talented Dutch players coming through the Dutch clubs. So I can't see that working. It's an interesting idea, and it's worth putting forward and discussing. I just don't think it works, personally, because the Dutch league is actually surprisingly competitive with the teams that win it. It's not always owned by Ajax or Feyenoord or PSV. A lot of teams have won the Dutch league in recent years, and it's very competitive. Okay, Ajax have been dominating lately, but the last 10, 20 years, it's not just Ajax. Multiple teams have had a crack at the top. But the Dutch have got their own problems with football. They need to assess their culture and their style of play. There's a reason why they've not won the last 2 World Cups. It's because it was taking place in April. The Canadians are obviously, ice hockey is their thing. We just had the Winter Olympics. The Stanley Cup playoffs are taking place. Wrong time of year to have the Commonwealth Games. Really is the wrong time of year. It's normally later in the summer for us in the Northern Hemisphere. I don't know why Gold Coast decided to choose April. The coverage was pretty shocking, to say the least. I barely watched any of it, if I'm honest. I barely made it because the events didn't start till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and it was just as bad as the Winter Olympics, really. The coverage wasn't great. Could have been a lot better. Left a lot to be desired. Don't worry, the British home nations did very well. The Australians did very well. I think the Canadians did quite well as well. There were some records broken. There was some really good quality people on display. The issue is they decided, the organisers, for some obscene reason, chose April when the temperature's really hot in Gold Coast. If they chose midsummer, it's midwinter in Australia, it would have been more acceptable to the athletes, but no, they chose April. So that's down to the organising committee. Some of the athletes, that marathon runner who collapsed, and that raises questions about athletes' welfare. There was issues with transport to and from the venues, because I've got some Australians who subscribe to the channel. He mentioned there was transportation and logistical issues to do with the opening ceremony and getting to and from venues, which wasn't covered over here. It didn't get the coverage it deserved, because a lot of British athletes with the home nations and the Isle of Man and the Channel Islands did very, very well. And it's and people said, is the Commonwealth Games still worth it? Of course it is. It's an international competition where 60% of Olympic athletes are Commonwealth nation athletes. So yeah, I think they posted it at the wrong time of year. But there's all sorts. I mean, there were other issues at play with the Commonwealth Games. But the good thing about the Commonwealth, they hosted the para athletes at the same time in the same venues, so they combined the two, the able-bodied athletes and the disability athletes together. That's something the Olympics could learn from. Is they did both competitions, the para competitions and the standard Commonwealth Games, at the same time. So the para athletes were competing in front of full stadiums and big crowds, so they get more exposure. That's one of the few positives from this Commonwealth Games. But I felt it was badly advertised. It was taking place at the wrong time of year. Bear in mind, the NRL and AFL were in full swing as well. They really could have done it during the international break. They have an international rep week. Could have done it then. I think it's part to do with the TV companies in Australia as well. I caught bits and pieces, but when your big main event of the day is taking place at 5 o'clock in the morning, I think you're going to find you're asleep. I wouldn't say it was a terrible event. It just could have been covered a lot better. I have a few Canadian subscribers as well. They were also had their views on the Commonwealth Games, but everyone's views are different. People were questioning whether it was, is it still a relevant competition? For the athletes, it is. It comes midway through an Olympic cycle. It's a good way, if their event is an Olympic sport, to see where they're at. If they've got a world championship in their sport, to see where they're at, and how they're developing and how they're progressing in the Olympic or world championship cycle. Every other region in the world has like a Pan American Games. There's the Asian Games. You've got regional tournaments in the Caribbean, South America, Africa, Europeans. It's just another version of them. It's part of the international cycle between Olympics. It's very interesting. There isn't a Winter Commonwealth Games though. It's only summer, so that's an interesting thing. But no, the coverage could have been a lot better. The press coverage wasn't great, to be honest. It was a bit on the poor side, and that comes down to the TV and media companies, really. But we've got, there's a lot coming up. We've got the World Cup in the summer in Russia, and then next year the Rugby Union World Cup in Japan. You've got the Cricket World Cup next year. Of course, Cricket World Cup all going to be on Sky, so we don't get any free-to-air coverage of it because that's how it works. Even though we're hosting the Cricket World Cup next year, we've got to pay for the coverage. It's wrong. They could have advertised, the Commonwealth Games better. But it's done now. There were obviously issues with the Commonwealth Games, but I think every major tournament there's always that one controversial or several controversial days or incidents in a tournament. We're going to have a lot in the World Cup this summer. There'll be a lot of controversy, I think, with the VAR and with the country that's hosting it. If I'm honest, people are saying that, look at the NHL this season, goaltender interference. I'm not watching the F1. I refuse to. It's a dull sport for me. The Halo, okay, they're trying to make the sport safer. That's fine. I think the final design style they've gone with, maybe not my cup of tea. Max Verstappen's crash is quite interesting, but I don't think Baku should even have the F1. Bernie Ecclestone ripped off Silverstone, which means next year is the last year we're going to have a British Grand Prix because no other racetrack is willing to spend the money to lose the money. And Liberty Media have gone, yeah, we're going to rip you off some more. We're not going to change the contract. Yeah, countries like Azerbaijan, which have a shocking human rights record, get to host it. No, sorry, I've gone off F1 completely. I'll be watching the touring cars, British touring cars, but I will not be watching the F1. I'm not giving Rupert Murdoch any more of my money. I'm sorry. The Halo, it was a knee-jerk response to the Jules Bianchi freak accident. It's a difficult one. I think the Halo doesn't look very attractive, so it's very hard to tell who's driving the bloody car. Other forms of motorsport have done safety in different ways. I'm not a big fan of the excess runoff areas in F1 because it makes the drivers lazy. It doesn't challenge them. Bring back the gravel traps, please. I'm not a fan of some of the modern track designs. They're very antiseptic. They're very dull. I'm not a fan of DRS. I'm not a fan of these hybrid engines. I'm not a fan of the fake sparks they have where they've just lowered the car slightly, put a skid tray on. Because when it rains, they just boats. I'm not a fan of Ferrari basically trying to threaten the sport with like, oh, if you make rule changes we're not happy with, we're leaving, which is wrong. So yeah, I've gone off F1 a long time ago. Bernie Ecclestone sold out Silverstone. He was British and he ripped us off. He's an unscrupulous criminal. Rupert Murdoch, yeah, no, the fear I have is Comcast want to buy Sky. Now, that could be a blessing in disguise if they get Sky off Rupert Murdoch in the UK, because it might mean an end to pay-per-view sports and we actually have free-to-air networks again. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping Comcast deal goes through and Fox's deal gets rejected. I'm hoping Comcast gets accepted by the regulator and that Sky Sports and all the Sky channels you can get free to air. I'm hoping that is a result, is that Freeview or FreeSat. If Comcast buy it, I hope they do, because Fox, I'm not paying Rupert Murdoch money. $7.99 a day for Sky Sports. That's £3,000 a year. Not paying it. I don't even pay for BT Sport either. The BT Sport quality is shocking. Their punditry is crap. Their commentary is crap. Austin Healey makes my ears bleed on rugby. He's really annoying little twerp. But no, Rupert Murdoch, I like the way you misspelled his name as well, which is brilliant. It's an H instead of a K, but you misspelled it, which is even better. I like that. Shows how little respect you have for him, which is brilliant. Rupert Murdoch basically has British sport in his pocket. If he wants to pull the plug, rugby league in this country is stuffed, cricket in this country is stuffed, rugby union in this country is stuffed, football in this country is stuffed, motorsport in this country will suffer a bit. But ITV are trying to keep the British touring car package. Fingers crossed they do, because they do a really good job. But yeah, he's already screwed ice hockey out of money and caused, issues there. Honestly, if he wants to pull the plug on Sky Sports, British sport is up the shitter. In fact, European sport is up the shitter, because they've become so reliant on his TV revenue. And pay-per-view needs to go free to air. You will find so many more people will watch, because I'm not paying £7.99 a day just to be mugged off with biased commentary, poor quality punditry, normally pundits who have got racist, homophobic, or vile backstories to them. I hope Comcast gets the deal. I hope Comcast buys Sky rather than Fox, because that might mean we have free-to-air sport again in large quantities on a sports network, on FreeSat. I will be more than happy to watch again. At the moment, no. Absolutely not. Pay-per-view sport is a dying thing, because people in the below 35 are not paying for subscription TV anymore. Or even Amazon Prime, for that matter. They're really not. They are streaming for free, or they're VPNing it and they're streaming illegally for free. They don't want to pay several £1,000s a year for sport, or TV for that matter. You would think when you're doing pay-per-view sport, you're going to have the ad-free. No, they bombard you with more adverts, which is disgusting. So you just spent a shed load of cash, and then you're bombarded with even more ads. It's not right. And BT Sport, God, they're struggling. If it wasn't for the internet network, so it means if you're a BT customer, your phone bill and your internet bill have gone up, because BT Sport is shit. If that was a standalone company like Setanta, yeah, they would be out of business by now. I'm not a fan of BT Sport either. Their quality of programming is even worse than Sky. I mean, they really dumb it down. Like, if you look at the media today, they have so dumbed down commentary, punditry, programming. It's so shit. They think we're thick. They're dumbing down the content. Their commentary is I was watching a French rugby union league game, and the commentator said, I think the player's name was Robert Slavich, and he was like, I'm not saying that, I'm going to call him Robbo. I was like, you can't even pronounce his piercing name. You're commentating every single French league game, but you can't pronounce this player's name, even though he's got a Slavic name. He's French, but you can't pronounce his name. Are you kidding me? How much are we paying? No. Yeah, no, Lord Sugar. I'm not a fan of him either. BT Sport is shite. It's real poor quality. The picture quality is fine. It's the pundits and the commentators are absolutely shocking. I never rated Jake Humphries anyway. I'm glad he's on there because I have to see him on BBC and it will make my ears bleed. BT Sport, if it was a standalone company without any help from BT, would be bankrupt. The Tottenham Arsenal game, I think one of the Tottenham Arsenal games, this season, last season, only got 80,000 viewers on BT Sport. 80,000 people tuned in for that. But no, your phone bill and your internet bill will go through the roof because they're subsidising a failing company. Yeah. You tell your sister, I'm important. I'm more important than family. But no, I think pay-per-view sport is a flawed concept. Young people are just refusing to pay for subscription sport anymore. And here's another thing. You know when there are those big boxing fights or on those UFC fights, they're always shown down the pub. All I've got to do is find a pub with Sky Sport or BT Sport or ITV box office, and I'm not paying. All I'm paying for is a pint of beer, and I'll get to watch a game for free. I'm not paying for it. Why would I want to pay $12.99 just for? Well, look at Amir Khan's last fight. He did the guy in 40 seconds. Like, why would I pay $12.99 to see a guy get knocked out in 40 seconds? What a waste of bloody money. Free to air, please. But of course, the British media is owned by Murdoch and foreigners anyway. I don't care. Same with Wembley. They're just selling off everything. Rupert Murdoch single-handedly has saved and also destroyed sport in this country. Because he's what, 86 now, 87? He's a geriatric. He could die at any time. His kids are unscrupulous bastards. Look at the news of the world. Look what they knew when they were running the news of the world. They knew that kid had been murdered, raped and murdered, and they hacked her mobile phone and they phoned or texted her parents saying she was alive. That's sick. That's what the Murdochs are. They're disgusting. So I do hope Comcast buy them out because they own the Universal Group. I hope Fox leaves out. We might get some free-to-air sport. But this is the problem. Not enough people are actually putting their hands up saying, we're not happy with this. When people stop buying it, they might stop and listen, and it hurts them in the pocket. But if we do that, we harm the sport that we love. That's the problem. But of course, this is why all these VPNs are getting shut down because these pay-per-view sport companies realizing they're losing money, they're losing viewers because people don't want to pay for it. So they're spending more and more time on YouTube doing copyright violations for the NRL. They're shutting down any channel that has even clips from last season. But here's the thing: if you go on YouTube, NASCAR, I know it's oval racing, okay, I know it's stock car racing. They live stream every event, and the next day they fully upload the event again. So if you miss the live stream, you have the race in full with no ads. They've worked something out. Now I'm a fan of NASCAR because I actually like watching cars go 200 miles an hour flat out with no tech aid. So I'm like F1 where they've got the flappy wing and they've got the boost button. NASCAR, you're going flat out 200 miles an hour, inches away from your opponent. Inches away. That takes skill and a fair bit of testicular fortitude. And they even allowed a girl to do it. They even let a girl drive in NASCAR. Danica Patrick, they let her drive for like nearly a decade. Yeah, because they've worked out they're not sexist. Now Sky is charging stupid money, but look at the copyright violations. If you're showing clips of NRL, you're done. You're shut down. Same with NHL, they shut you down. But I found some websites that aren't YouTube. Yeah, I get to watch the games a day or so late, but I don't care. I am not paying the money Sky, BT, Premier Sports are asking. Hence why all these VPNs like Cody are going through all these lawsuits because they're panicking. They know they're dinosaurs. They're trying and panicking so hard because they're losing customers day on day. The younger generation do not want to pay stupid money for televised sports. They want free to air. That's why we're not paying for it. And they try and do these like cut price deals and introductory deals, and then after the 18-month introductory offer, they piss off and they go to Virgin. Then they do that, and then they go to BT, and then they go, no, not happy, and then we're not doing it anymore. You see, even IndyCar put their races on YouTube free to air. Admittedly, it's after the races take place, or even sometimes while the races take place. IndyCar and NASCAR stream their events live on YouTube. Now, whether you like or dislike NASCAR, that is the way to go, because they know there's a market for their sport outside the US where people actually do give a fuck. It might only be like a few thousand people, but they realise that's the way to market their sport abroad, is to get young people involved. Now, BT Sport, the only good thing I'll give them is the Champions League and Europa League finals are shown on YouTube. That's it. Every other game, no, you got to pay for it. They only do the finals on YouTube, so you miss out all the. I've missed out on the Liverpool, Man City quarterfinal. I've missed out on Liverpool Roma. I've missed out on the Juventus comeback against Real Madrid, all because BT want stupid amounts of money, and I refuse to give it to them. I flat out refuse to pay them my hard-earned cash. And if this channel gets big enough, I'm still going to refuse. If this channel gives me money, and I'm earning money again off this channel, I'm not buying BT or Sky Sports. It'd be going against my principles. I refuse. I flat out refuse to be ripped off for sport. There's a reason why there's an obesity crisis in this country. You're denying free-to-air sports to millions of young people. Millions. And you're ripping off their families in the process. And people are less willing to pay for it. They're just not paying for it anymore. They refuse to pay for it. And I don't blame them. Because this is what else is pretty disgusting. The TV deal that the Premier League clubs signed up to, the latest one, the one they're on now, not the new one, they could have let us in for 5 years for free. They even stupidly admitted it off the record that they could have let us all in for free. Yet the ticket price keeps going up. The money has completely destroyed the soul of sport in this country and around the world. It's destroyed it. Absolutely destroyed the soul in sport. Sucked it out. You've got to look at the price for World Cup tickets. Yep. Not wrong there. And they're right. Don't forget their agents as well. Don't forget the agents. They're another reason why the wages are going up, because they're asking for exorbitant agents fees that are almost criminal levels. I mean, we've discussed some very negative topics, and there are some very positive things I want to talk about. And Andres Iniesta is retiring at the end of the season from European football now. He could end up in China or America. But look at his career. Not getting talked about tonight because of what's going on with the negative stuff. And the negative stuff is dominating the headlines at the moment, which is wrong. Arsene Wenger, for all his flaws as a manager, and many Arsenal fans will say he should have won the ages ago. He probably should have. But look how many trophies he's won, especially the 7 FA Cups. No other manager is ever going to get that amount of silverware. And stay at a club for 22 years. Okay, yes, he spent less time at Arsenal than Fergie at Man United. But those managers don't exist anymore. That's something that we should be talking about. Exeter Chiefs in the rugby union in England, dominating the league, barely get spoken about. It's wrong. It's wrong. And this live stream started with the proposed sale of Wembley, and the fact that the FA has now come out and said, and Saeed Khan have both said, "Oh yeah, we've been discussing this for months." So the governing body of sport in this country has been in discussions for selling its assets, and we don't know about it. Wenger 10 years ago, Arsenal weren't winning trophies 10 years ago. They last won a trophy before this recent surge in the FA Cup that they've had. They didn't win a trophy since about 2004, 2005. So Wenger 10 years ago, yes, he was getting his team into the Champions League. Yes, he was getting regular top 4. He wasn't winning trophies until recently. I would take Wenger in, I would say 99 to 2003 was, I think that's when he was at his managerial best. But even so, he's survived at a club for 22 years. You don't get that anymore. You just don't. And that's an issue. There's no club stability anymore. There's none. Clubs do not have the stability that they should do. And that is a problem going forward, is you take stability out of clubs, they're not going to be successful. Unless you're Chelsea, because you can sack every manager and still win at Chelsea. But look at the clubs that have gone through so many managers. Look how they struggle. Arsenal have been very lucky that he's stuck around for 22 years. He could have left at any time during tenure. He could have left 10 years ago. He could have gone to another club. He decided to stick it out at Arsenal, stick to his philosophy, whether it was right or wrong, and get them through the new stadium, paying it off. He did that. He kept them in Europe. He kept them consistent in Europe and competitive in the league to a point. So in the end, he's actually done a fair job. I think they could still win the Europa League as well. They have a very good chance of winning the Europa League. Okay, admittedly, they did let themselves down in the second half against Atletico. But now Atletico got players suspended for the next game, so they actually have a chance to come out with a win in that tie and get to the final and win the trophy. They do. And that would be a fitting way for him to end his career at Arsenal, is with a European trophy in his hands. Whether he carries on managing after Arsenal is yet another question. Do I feel sorry for some of the criticism he's had? A little bit. Has it been deserved? Yes. Do I feel sorry for somebody going too far? Of course. Have I been critical of Wenger? To a point. I've got friends who are Arsenal fans who have been very, very, very critical of it. And others who said, it's time to retire, please. I think he has stayed a few years too long. I think he possibly should have gone at the end of last season. But now he's on the verge of getting Arsenal into another final. And it's a European final. So if they can get to that Europa League final and he can win that, that is a fitting way for him to end his Arsenal tenure. And of course, this weekend he takes Arsenal to Man United for the last time. And that is going to be an atmosphere that I think even Man United fans have a certain grudging respect for Wenger. Especially at the height of the rivalry in the late 90s, early noughties. That was Pizzagate and all sorts. But I do think the United fans will give him a standing ovation at the weekend. It's good to see there's a little bit of debate about Rangers Celtic in the chat there. To be honest, I think Celtic will win. 4-1 is about right. I'm being honest. Going on the form from the Cup semi-final where Rangers were just demolished, and with Kenny Miller basically thrown out the club now. Basically, he's suspended by the club. Your best player's not there. It is going to be harder for Rangers to get a result. I'm not going to lie. It is going to be very hard for Rangers to get a result because two of the club captain and Kenny Miller have both been suspended by the club. Graham Murty's got an unenviable position. I don't know. If Gerrard wants to step into the cauldron that is, fair play to him. I don't think he's ready yet. I think he should have cut his teeth in the English league at some level. As a player, yes, so, Gerrard is used to pressure situations, but this would be his first step in first team management if he is to get the Rangers job. And I don't think he's quite ready yet. That's my personal opinion. But it'd be interesting to see what happens and if anything gets announced, because the season has got a few weeks left to run both north and south of the border, and it'll be interesting to see what occurs on player movement, manager movement. Who replaces Wenger? We know Wenger is actually leaving his job. Who will step into the Arsenal job? And how much success will they have or not have? And will the new manager at Arsenal be given money to spend in the transfer market and be given carte blanche to go, right, build a team? That's what's interesting. I'm not surprised you'd be watching on a dodgy stream, because why pay for a product that's declining in quality? That's my personal opinion. I think the quality of football around the world is less than it was 10, 20 years ago. I honestly believe that. I believe the quality has gone downhill. The players are getting paid too much, and the quality has collapsed. That's my personal opinion on football. I could say that about other sports as well. Other sports, I think the quality or the energy levels has gone up, and players are actually trying harder to be better. Football, I think the opposite is true. There's too much diving, which is embarrassing. Milking it is just cringe. I no, I'd rather gouge my eyes out with a spoon. The abuse of officials is disgusting by both players and coaches. Fans, we can deal with when they get a bit chirpy, but when managers and players are in the officials' face, giving them abuse and then striking them, Buffon, for example, Simone last night, that's, I think, where the line has to be drawn. Yeah, I agree. Celtic in 10 years' time probably won't be the same. Hopefully, it's Aberdeen and Rangers, Motherwell, Hibs and Hearts that will give it a go. But at the same time, I don't see how it's going to change unless Scottish sport gets more investment. Plain and simple. Unless some people come in with some money, or there's fan-led takeovers of clubs, and the fans run the clubs. I don't see how Scottish football's going to change. It's going to stay the same because no one's had the courage to confront the problems in Scottish sport and football in general. Hello, Sajid. Hello. We might have some cricket questions now, which will be interesting because I like cricket. But no, we've covered a lot of football. We've covered a lot of topics in football that all have the same basic issues. It's to do with the money. It's to do with the accountability of the various parties involved and the transparency of the various organisations involved, be it owners, clubs, governance. And they all come down to the same root problem every time. Oh God, my hair is a mess. Yeah, I thought I'd wear my Little Edition snapback tonight. Hey, I love your optimism. Love your optimism. Well, Gautam Gambhir, as I said, he is not a 2020 player. His run rate is too slow, and he's too orthodox. 2020 is for the unorthodox player and the strike player, and he works better in a test setup. He's also showing his age somewhat and his declining abilities. But again, the statement that was released by him, it said it was his decision, it had nothing to do with coaching or management, which I again don't believe. I don't know what it is with cricket and lying to the fans. But here's a problem that we have is the cricket here is not free to wear anymore. It's not, and it won't be free to wear for another couple of years to get any cricket on free to air TV. It's all pay, and you have to pay silly money for a declining product. Which is a discussion we've had all night on the live stream. So it doesn't matter if it's cricket, rugby, football, ice hockey. The discussion is exactly the same, just a different sport. But no, the Gautam Gambhir, he's a slow run scorer. He's a very orthodox, steady player. He works great in Test cricket and works to a point in 50 over cricket. Does not work in T20. He's not explosive enough. He's not a power hitter. He's not unorthodox. So his style of play just does not work for 20 over format of the game. It just doesn't. Whether that could be his last games in the IPL, probably. Most likely, yes. But this new 100 ball format of the game the ECB is coming up with, I think, is stupid. No, I don't, because I've got to pay for it. You've got to have a Skybox to get Premier Sports. However, Free Sports, if I can get an HD Freeview box, I can get that for free. So that's the plan, is to get an HD Freeview box or an HD TV, so I can at least get free Sports, the Premier Sports sister channel, which is owned by the same people. I have caught the odd bit on Premier Sports. They do have a Freeview 4 times a year, like once every 3 months. They have a 4-day Freeview, and then they take it away from you. Oh yeah. It would be nice to have free to air sport, But of course, sport is big business and money talks, so the consumer gets ripped off. Simple. And the only way to get Premier Sports is to have a Skybox, even though Premier Sports is owned by a different company. Only way to get Premier Sports is to have a Skybox. So you have to give Murdoch money, which I refuse to do. But it would be nice. But I'm not getting Sky. Firstly, I don't pay the bills in my house, apart from a few bits of rent. Well, for a day, one day is £7.99 for Sky Sports. That's just standard, not pay for. That's not the boxing pay per views. That is just standard Sky Sports channels. It's £7.99. I don't know what it is in Indian rupees. A fair bit, I would assume. Premier Sports for the day, I think, is £12.99. BT Sport for on a daily rate, I don't know, if I'm honest. Your standard pay per view is about it works out at £3,000 a year for just a basic sports package on Sky. £3,000 a year. If that happens, even if snooker goes, then sport is dead. The soul of sport has been sucked out by Rupert Murdoch and BT. They're sucking the soul out of sport in this country, and they're making a hell of a lot of money out of us, and we get a diminishing production return. They're working out we're not paying for it. The younger people aren't paying for it. That's why they're trying to shut down all these VPNs and all these streaming sites like Kodi. They're doing a lot of this legal stuff to try and shut down Kodi and stuff. That shows they're panicking. That shows they're really panicking. And people have complained about the BBC and ITV not having free-to-air, Channel 4 and Channel 5 not having as much free-to-air sport as they used to 5-10 years ago. And they've been very, very critical of the highlights packages they get. They've been very critical. They're saying they want more sport on free-to-air, not less. Yet the TV companies don't listen to us. Yeah, Wiswig's gone. That shows that the sports TV companies, the companies that deal with the sport and TV, are panicking. They're throwing a lot of money at shutting down these streaming sites and VPN addresses. They're panicking because they know they're fighting a losing battle in the long term, and we're turning off it. We're refusing. I mean, who wants to pay £3,000 a year just for your standard Sky Sports? That's not to have every single Sky Sports channel. That's £3,000 a year. People are just not willing to pay it anymore because our salaries aren't growing as fast as we would like. Prices, inflation going up. And look at India, how cheap it is, £2 a month. We have to pay £7.99 a day, just £8 a day. We pay 4 times as much a day that they pay in a month. That is completely acceptable. On every facet, that is wrong. Because our wages aren't growing fast enough. The young, my generation, I think I want to move to India. Firstly, I love curry, so I love spicy food. I've just had a curry tonight. I think I might want to move to India. No, I do want to. I mean, I wouldn't mind moving abroad and sampling. My plan is to move to Canada or Australia in the next couple of years, and get out of the UK because this is a sinking ship over here. It's I think I'm going to have to look elsewhere in the Commonwealth to live and work. And it's I don't know what it is. I think we've got the way sports are broadcast in this country, in the UK at least. I don't know about the rest of the world. Completely wrong. Completely wrong. We're Americanizing ourselves far too much, and we're losing the spirit of our sports. And our clubs are in trouble. And our sports, the way they're governed, is a problem. And if for example, like Rupert Murdoch has done this, I've done a video on this. British ice hockey suffered because Rupert Murdoch decided to pull the plug on TV rights. He refused to renew them. So the British Super League ran out of money. He held a sport to ransom and he won. Now that was nearly 20 years ago. I don't think he'd get away with it now. He is so hated right now. If you try that now, there'll be, I think, B Sky B offices might get burnt down. But no, the amount we have to pay in terms compared to India, I think is wrong. Yeah, but for some reason in Britain, apparently you've got to pay through the roof for it. There's not enough of it on free-to-air TV. People have made a lot of comments about this. Yeah, I don't understand why they're scrapping the Champions Trophy. That was a brilliant tournament. Yeah, the ECB are obsessed with this 100-ball cricket, 100 cricket. They're aiming at kids and kids' mums. How many stay-at-home mums do you actually know who would actually go watch cricket with their kids? Really? The stay-at-home mum doesn't really exist anymore unless you're living on a council estate and you're on benefit. Because most stay-at-home mums are from wealthy affluent families and most of them actually work. And the ICC, the International Cricket Council, they're trying to get the soccer mum to watch cricket, and it doesn't work because only 1 in 5 mothers are stay-at-home mums. The other 4 out of 5 go to work. And of course, summer holidays. Most families are on pissing holiday in the summer. So the ECB's plan is such stupidity. The way they've marketed it is wrong. And they've tried for 10 years to kill 2020 cricket. And they're introducing even short format of the game that no one wants to watch. What the fuck are they doing? And the ICC have proved how toothless they are with the ball tampering in Australia. And I don't know. The Champions Trophy was decent. They could have combined the Champions Trophy and the World Cup into one tournament, possibly. But hey, the ICC, I mean, God, this just shows how sports governing bodies aren't really in touch with the fans. Yeah, people actually pay their wages. Because here's the thing, if we all go to games, they don't get their bonuses. You see? This is how we can change sports for the better. Is just to boycott these tournaments and boycott these games and refuse to go because empty seats look really crap for pay-per-view TV. Really crap. But I've argued long and hard for fan action. Vote with your feet, vote with your wallet, and go somewhere cheaper. Because I haven't been to a Premier League football match in over a decade. I haven't been to a rugby union match in about a decade, if not more. I haven't been to a test match cricket for over a decade. But I go to my local ice hockey match team every weekend because it's affordable. The other ones are not. And with the TV deals in place for the 3 above sports that I mentioned, they could reduce our ticket prices significantly, but they don't. They rip us off. And then the players get greedy. And that makes the players very unpopular with me. I think the players are overpaid. I think they're greedy. I think there are a lot of them in it for the money. A crap player can get paid 7 to 10 million a year for doing not a lot. So if you're a Jack Wilshere, you can be injured for the whole season and be overweight and be lazy and chain smoke and go to the pub, and you can get paid silly money. You could be an egotistical wanker like Alexis Sanchez and earn 34 million a year. So this is why I hate football. And people wonder why I hate or I've grown to dislike football so much. And it's because the players are overpaid. They're prima donnas. They dive. They simulate. They cheat. They spit. They swear. They abuse officials. The managers abuse the officials. The fans are visceral, feral dogs. There's racism, homophobia, sexism, bullying. It's rife. The game is badly governed. There's corruption, match fixing, you name it. And people go to me, why don't you follow football more? This is the argument I have with people. Why don't I follow football more? And I tell them why I follow ice hockey. And they're like, really? But you're British? I'm like, yeah, but it's a good sport. it's not as corrupt and as vile as football is. It's a proper sport where you're playing hurt and you're pretending you're not as hurt as badly as you are. Whereas in football, you sneeze, you fall over. You pretend you're hurt when you're not. Whereas in ice hockey, you know you're hurt. You're playing hurt from the night before, and you play maybe 4 games in a week, 5 games in a week, and you might have a pair of broken ribs and you might have a fractured hand, but you're still playing. Foot player, he gets a bruise on his toe, he can't play for a month. Hockey player, break his foot, play all season. There's a boundary. There is a point where a chanting can go from good humour and then a bit of banter and a bit of visceral to downright offensive. There is a line. Sadly, today everyone gets offended because everyone's a snowflake, and everyone needs a safe place to hide from words. So I like chanting. I personally think some of the sports chants are really funny. I don't like the ones that have racist connotations or homophobic connotations. But when it comes to some of the funny chants, I mean, I've come up with a few myself. I find them funny. I do. There are some really, really inventive fan bases of multiple sports who come up with some really, really funny stadium songs. And the Barmy Army, I will talk about the Barmy Army. Barmy Army was not a cricket invention, it's a rugby league invention. In the 80s, Great Britain used to go over and tour Australia and lose every test match. We used to play rugby league in Australia as Great Britain years ago. And we would have a 3 or 4 match test series and we would lose 3 or 4 times. And this Australian commentator stated that even though we were getting battered, our fans were a Barmy Army because they were in good voice constantly and they treated it as a party atmosphere. And that's where the Barmy Army comes from. And now every Great Britain or England side has a Barmy Army. When we play international sport, there is a Barmy Army. So anytime there's chanting at any kind of international match that involves England or Great Britain, there is a Barmy Army. Same for the Lions. Even though Ireland are involved in that, there's the Barmy Army. That's where it comes from. It's an 80s Australian media commentator who commentated on a rugby league test match. Great Britain were getting absolutely slaughtered against Australia in Australia, and he commented that our fans were Barmy and they were an army of them. The thing is, the ICC has got a lot of problems in governance, and accountability and transparency. It's good that the 2020 is getting more global and it's getting a lot of fans interested in playing the game and kids to pick up a bat and ball and to give it a go. That's great. But certain governing bodies like the ECB have tried to strangle 2020 from birth. And the issue is the individual national governing bodies, they need to be completely reformed, a lot of them. And, well, I mean, I forgot to mention the tennis match fixing report. This week, a tennis match fixing report was released where they did state that match fixing was endemic in the lower levels of the game. Places like Bermuda, Holland, Namibia, there's some other obscure countries. Canada, they are members of the ICC as well. So teams that may not have test status are still members of the ICC. I think Hong Kong are as well. And the Cook Islands, places like that, really obscure places. But no, World Tennis has released a report saying that tennis corruption, match fixing is endemic in the lower levels of the professional game. World cricket is badly governed. Hey, look, anywhere that was part of the British Commonwealth, or anywhere that even the Dutch play cricket, so the Dutch and Namibians, cricketing nations, you'll be surprised. Bermuda is a member. British Virgin Islands. I think the Cook Islands are a member, but the thing is, it's not very well publicised who your members are, and the organisation is very fractured. And the ICC has burnt a lot of bridges with a lot of the members, especially Test playing members. I think England are on their last straw with the ICC, and India don't get on the ICC. Australia are a bit on the way out of favour of the ICC. The ICC as a governing body does not have the respect for its constituent members. Much like FIFA is got problems. World Rugby's got issues. Um, one of the few governing bodies of a sport is the IIHF, the International Ice Hockey Federation. That's one of the few federations of international sport that seems to actually have its members united and together governing a sport. All the other governing bodies have a lot of issues to do with various problems to do with their sport. But I'm not surprised Argentina play cricket simply because there's a large expat Welsh population there. There's a lot of people from the UK went over there about 150 years ago to live, so they would have brought the game with them. Hence why Argentina plays rugby. And a lot of the Argentinian football clubs were set up by Englishmen. You know. But in order to grow the game, yeah, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he does have the build of a tall, fast bowler. I think he would have the power to be an all-rounder, actually. It would be interesting to see some other sportsmen try other sports. I've done a video on one particular sportsman in Israel, Folau, and how he's played rugby league, Aussie rules, and rugby union. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he does have the build to be a very, very good athletic all-round fielder and batsman and bowler. He does have that athleticism about him. He also has the power behind him, so I can see him being a very, very powerful batsman. Very powerful. But I can also see him as a rugby player or as an ice hockey player. Now, he was brought up in Sweden. They play ice hockey there. I wouldn't be surprised if he played ice hockey for a little bit. I'm not surprised he did karate, if that is so. He looks like he could take his hand up at multiple sports. And I wouldn't be surprised if at school he was very good at multiple sports, and he was an all-round sportsman. There are several athletes who I think could try their hand at other sports professionally. But there's a reason why he chose football. It's because the money's there. And he was picked up by Ajax from Malmo when he was quite young. Yeah, well, he seemed to have a very good relationship with the LA Galaxy, and also Los Angeles FC as well. They and the Rams and the Raiders. They have a very good family bond of sports in LA. All the various franchises in the various leagues do support each other. I have seen some of the LA Kings Major League Soccer players do the ceremonial puck drop on matches. They've had like the club captain. They've had various members of the team do functions for the Kings and vice versa. Same with the American football players as well. They all do various the coin toss, all sorts of that. They get involved with the Dodgers as well. They all seem to, the LA sports family, look after each other. They support each other's franchises. I wouldn't be surprised though if Zlatan was a hockey fan back in Sweden when he was growing up, because the Swedish Hockey League is a very, very good standard. When it comes to ice hockey leagues, it's of a decent standard. And hence why Rasmus Dahlin is the talk of the NHL draft. He's an 18-year-old playing against men, and he's twisting them in left, right, and centre, and he's the next big thing to come to the NHL. But the Swedish Hockey League is a very, very, very deep, but got good talent in it. So I'm not surprised Zlatan Ibrahimovic would have caught an ice hockey game at an LA Kings game. I wouldn't be surprised if he grew up in Malmo watching his local ice hockey team play in the SHL. Would not be surprised. Um, it's like Metallica are big San Jose Sharks fans. I've seen Metallica at San Jose Sharks games on the TV when I'm watching, and they're all there, sat amongst regular fans. They're not up in the boxes. They're actually sat by the plexiglass, by the arena, right by the rink, with their families. So it is what it is. Sometimes some of these celebrity fans are doing it for the PR, but Zlatan, I honestly believe he is a sports fan away from football. Considering the country where he's come from, ice hockey is a big sport there. And Malmo is a sports crazy city in Sweden. I'm not surprised he was at an ice hockey game, and he was probably enjoying it. So that's my view on that. But yeah, right. I'm gonna finish up in a couple of minutes, so I'm happy to take a few more questions. I'll be going for another 6 minutes. So if you've got any more questions, just throw them in there quick. Vegas. The thing is, Vegas have a very, very good side. They've had that one extra day in between series. They've had 7 days. San Jose had 6. So in that respect, they've had an extra day of preparation. And I think Gerard Gallant has been training them solidly the entire time. San Jose looked sloppy. They looked very sloppy. They 31 penalty minutes to like 6. So they completely basically just said, here's a power play every 5 minutes. Basically, we're not going to try. They were ill disciplined. And Evander Kane's cross check, he could be facing a lengthy suspension, which could end the series there and then. If Evander Kane gets more than a couple of games, let's say gets a 3-game suspension and Vegas win the next 2, I would be looking at how they've done suspensions in the playoffs, with Nazem Kadri getting 3 games for his late hit, which I thought wasn't worth 3 games, maybe worth a game. Evander Kane could be looking at longer. I think Vegas, again, people underestimate them. They shut out the Kings twice. They shut the Kings down. And they just blew San Jose away in the first quarter. The first period, sorry. The first 20 minutes, they won the game. San Jose, looking at what I've seen in the highlights and watching other channels that do cover ice hockey, is a sole ice hockey thing. The way we shouldn't be surprised by Vegas. They have got a very good team. They have a very solid team. They're a well coached team. They're a very together team. This team is a unified unit. This is not a team of egos. This is a team of players playing for each other. That's my view on it. I think they're going to win the series easier than I thought. I predicted a 6 or 7 game series when I did my prediction video. I think it was 6 games. I think I predicted it to go to. I thought every game would be close. I thought there might be a couple of overtimes in there. How wrong could I be? If that's anything to go by, San Jose are in for a real hard couple of games. Wales. It's the England Wales and cricket. It's the English Welsh Cricket Board. So even though it says ECB, it should be WCB, and Glamorgan is part of the English county cricket structure. Wales do not have a separate team. We could debate whether Wales should have a separate team over England, but Scotland have a separate one-day team. Ireland have a separate one-day team. Wales don't, for whatever reason. But no, my view on the Vegas pummeling the Sharks is they're a well-coached team. They're well-drilled. There isn't any, egotistical players there that I could think of. They've all bought into the system. A lot of them have got playoff experience anyway. I think a lot of these players have played the playoffs at least once, so they know what a playoff series is all about, even if it's in the AHL level. So they're not no-hopers. They showed in the regular season what they could do. There's a reason why they were the top of their division. There was a reason why they're seeded first in their division. And there's a reason why San Jose was seeded third. because San Jose slowed down towards the end of the season. They knew they were going to get the playoffs. They just stopped. They just played out the streak, rested a lot of players. Plus, San Jose are missing Joe Thornton, and whether he'll be back for the rest of the series or whether he can come back. Because if Evander Kane is out and Joe Thornton's not fit enough, they could be done in full. And it's very rare there's a sweep in the second round. It's very, very rare that happens because normally the best teams have now got through. These are the tough, grizzled teams. And unlike Winnipeg the other night against my team, Winnipeg against Minnesota, we were falling up after the first, and then we slowed down a bit. Vegas kept scoring in the second and the third. They chased Jones out of net, put Dell in, and they still got 2 past Dell as well. So they put 5 past Jones, who's had an outstanding season. He was a sieve. He saved 8 on 30 something. He let in 5 goals in period and a bit. He was just allowed. He let in 5 or 6 goals. He only saved 8 shots. And at one point, they only had 7 shots on target. 4 of them were goals. I think in the first period, they had 7 shots on target. 4 of them went in. So there were only 3 saves made in the first period by Jones. That's how good their shooting was. So they didn't have to pummel the net. They were very accurate and very quick, and they scored very, very good goals. That's the difference. And Marc-Andre Fleury was a brick wall. So if your goaltender can save 33 shots and have a shutout, you've got every chance of winning a game. And they really did put them to the sword. Right. Okay. Any more questions? Because I'll take a couple more and then we're done. Any more questions, anyone? Okay, in that case, I'm going to call it a night. We've been going for 2 hours and 20 odd minutes now. I'll answer that one. I used to be on more superbikes. My GP, again, pay-per-view sport only now. Don't even get highlights anymore. The BBC, Channel 5 used to have it. Then it went to BBC. The BBC sold out a good 3-4 years ago. So I just fell out of love with it. If I've got to pay stupid money to watch it, then jog on. Jog on. I used to be, but I'm not anymore. You got to pay stupid. So that's it. Okay. Thank you very much for everyone. Thanks for all the topics we covered. I know we did a lot on football tonight. I tend to try and give every sport an equal airtime. But you asked some really good questions. We discussed a lot of important topics. We covered a lot actually. So thanks to all you guys. Really appreciate it. And good night from me. And I'll have some more videos for you tomorrow. And I shall see you all soon.